Japan is full of history, both factual and mythological, and we want to share these stories with you. And we'll be jumping around the history of Japan to find stories both interesting and fantastical. I'm your host, Thomas.
And I'm your co-host, Heather. We've both lived in Japan now for over 2 years and have learned so many interesting tales to tell. We'll also be reading a Japanese song or poem for you in Japanese, and we'll discuss the poet and meaning behind these songs.
And with that out the way, Heather, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go.
Ask a Ninja.
Sorry, what? There used to be a YouTube channel called Ask a Ninja.
Yeah, so this was way back towards the early days of things like YouTube, and I think was this when Facebook was a thing or became a thing, or I knew it was a thing. There was Ask a Ninja, and it was a guy in a ninja outfit, and you could ask him any kind of questions and he would answer you in a ninja style.
It didn't have to be a question about Japan. Any question was okay.
I think it was any question. This was oh god, this was a while back. I think it was over 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if he's still active or not, but I used to love it. So it was really fun.
Oh, okay. I wonder if he still does it on YouTube.
Now I'm going to have to Google.
Okay, well, let me know. Okay, are we ready?
Ready to go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is the Japan Archives, episode 7, Target Nobunaga. I wanted to tell you a story that was true, as opposed to all the mythology we've dealt with in past episodes. So I wanted to tell you, Heather, and everyone listening, about a ninja today. So what do you already know about the ninja?
I know they use the stars, the shuriken.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be master assassins and very quiet, very stealthy, kind of at night is when they're active, more like nocturnal assassins, I think.
Okay.
But I honestly don't know so much about ninja. One of the things that really surprised me is here, I don't see so much about ninjas here. I still very ignorant of actually the history of ninja.
Okay. Well, we won't get into too much about the history of ninja today. I picked one specific person that I want to tell you the history of.
Okay.
So this man was known as Sugitani Zenjubo. We're not sure when he was born, but we do know when he died, and that was in 1573. But obviously, like I said, he was a ninja. And I think a lot of people might feel that the ninja were quite traditional, Japanese-wise, like they were all stealth and their shuriken weapons, as well as using other weapons such as the kusarigami and the tekokagi. But actually the ninja always kept tabs on technological advances as they went through time. And they were happy to use more modern technology, such as flintlock rifles, for instance.
What? Really?
Yes. And that's what's special about Sugitani. He was well renowned for his ability with a flintlock rifle at the time, which in Japan at the time was called a hinawaju. So yes, he was famous as a ninja because of his use of a gun. As for his ancestry though, we're not really sure who he is descended from, but we do know he was born to one of the 53 families of the Koga clan, which was a big clan known to be a ninja clan. One of the two main ones in actuality. So he was eventually approached, he and the clan were approached by a warlord at the time known as Rokaku Yoshitaka, and he had a plan which he wanted to involve Sugitani in because he trusted in his abilities. And the plan was to assassinate Oda Nobunaga, the very famous Japanese warlord.
Okay, I was like, this is the Oda Nobunaga.
Yes, the one and the great, well-known Oda Nobunaga, who set his sights on trying to unify all of Japan. Because obviously at the time it was very split into different territories, all held by different clans and warlords, and Nobunaga wanted to basically bring them all under one rule and unite Japan into one country. Which is interesting when you consider that it wasn't united, but at the same time the whole country still believed in one singular emperor. But yes, so he wanted to assassinate Oda Nobunaga. Now, I'll say a little bit about him before we go on. So Nobunaga was born, we know, in 1534. But when he was born, he had a different name. He was known as Kiposhi. He was born in Owari province and was the son of a man known as Oda Nobuhide, who during his life was a military governor of the area of Owari province. Now, Nobunaga was well known to have been a very bad child, even from birth. He would run around raising hell where he lived. He even disrupted his own father's funeral, where he took up a pot of incense and threw it at the altar of the temple.
How old was he when he did that? I'm trying to like picture that. Like, how old was he when he did that? That's pretty.
So Nobunaga's father, Nobuhide, died in 1551, meaning that would have made Nobunaga at the time, you're making me do math, he would have been 17 at the time.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's not like a 4-year-old. That's oh my gosh.
So he was pretty much an adult by that time.
Yeah, he was a little wild.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like a little child causing hell. He was basically an adult, and he was just very disrespectful even at the age of 17. In addition to that, he was so bad that the records say his tutor became so frustrated with him, he committed ritual suicide just to get away from Nobunaga.
Okay, that's a little bit much. I think you probably could have just ran away. I think committing suicide is a little bit too intense. I'm hoping that's a legend and not an actual thing that happened. I would really feel like Nobunaga would feel really terrible that he'd look back on his life and go, I am so sorry to that tutor. I am so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of hope too that it is more of a legend about his disobedience. But if it was true, then it kind of makes you realize just how bad he actually was growing up into adulthood. So even though he was such a terrible child as he grew up, he did eventually become a well-known general and warlord who, like I said, tried to unite Japan into one country. And he was quite successful with it during his lifetime.
Do you think that he became more of a great figure to make up for some of his past? Perhaps to, it's nice that he was able to change and become someone that really had such a huge impact on Japan from a very troubled past.
As hopeful as you are that he became a better person in adulthood to make up for his past, when his father did die, even though Nobunaga was the legitimate heir to take over the Oda clan, there was a lot of division and a lot of people didn't actually want him to take over.
Yeah, I could understand
So
that.
Nobunaga did what he thought was logical. He gathered 1,000 men and suppressed all the members of his family who were hostile to his rule, which included his younger brother. And in addition to that, in 1556, he destroyed a rival branch of their family at Kiyosu Castle. So he came to power through, again, very vicious means. So I feel that he didn't unite Japan because he became a better person. I think it was just a continuation of his anger, or like the person he was growing up.
He's definitely powerful. Cannot deny that.
Well, exactly, yeah. He was very powerful. He managed to take over the clan that didn't want him to. He even united most of Japan. And yeah, he was very successful with it. We could go on and say a lot more about Nobunaga, but obviously this is not an episode about him, so I want to leave it there. No doubt we'll have an episode or a few perhaps about him and his life and his exploits. But I want to go back to Sugitani and his attempt at taking Nobunaga's life. So he's been given the proposition for the assassination and he's mulling it over quite a lot, but he does eventually agree, which I think kind of shows how ambitious he was as an assassin and a ninja. But of course he knew Nobunaga was a pretty ruthless warlord, and should he fail in the assassination attempt, then it would surely lead to his own death. Like, he would be hunted down, and I think he knew that at the time. It was a very risky job, but still he agreed to take it on. So he's agreed to the contract, and he's quite lucky in that he comes into possession of a very valuable piece of information. And that is that soon Nobunaga and his retinue would be coming through the region of Omi in the month of May.
So what territory, or I guess you could say territory at the time, was the Koga clan located?
So Omi was a province of Japan, which in modern day Japan is located in Shiga Prefecture, which we mentioned in last episode is the location of Lake Biwa, which is where the fairy tale we told in last episode was located.
Ah, yes. Should I get the centipede
It's
to
almost
help?
like I planned these things, doesn't it?
It really does. I think
Just call it.
it's called the centipede,
Just call it
Sugitani.
the centipede. Help with the assassination.
Exactly.
If only he'd have known of the centipede, maybe everything would have gone a lot easier for him. So Nobunaga is going to be coming through the province of Omi in the month of May, which is going to happen pretty soon. But not only that, Nobunaga had decided to take a route which would take him along the Chigusa Road, which was in the Chigusa Pass. Now he made this decision to take an alternate route as he actually feared for his safety. He could have taken the Tokaido Road at the time, but it was a very exposed route. So he decided to take the Chigusa Pass, which was a very isolated and rocky area at the time, as he thought it would give him more protection. So of course for Nobunaga it was an ideal choice so that he would be protected, but it also gave Sugitani the perfect place to find a vantage point for his assassination. So Sugitani, the professional that he was, didn't wish to leave anything to chance. So he arrived at the pass a few days ahead of Nobunaga was supposed to arrive, basically allowing himself time to find the perfect vantage point to take his shot from. Luckily, he eventually found the spot he wanted, which overlooked the road, but it was also largely inaccessible for anyone who would have been down on the road at the time, meaning it would give him a chance to flee after he had taken the shot. Obviously back then, rifles were gunpowder based, so once he had taken it, there would have been a lot of smoke from his rifle, meaning anyone who was around at the time would be able to instantly see where the shot had come from and be able to try and capture him. So he needed a safe vantage point which was inaccessible to basically give him the chance to flee. He waited there for a few days until the day arrived. Now we know the exact date that this happened, which was May 19th, 1570. And on that day, Sugitani finally saw Nobunaga and his retinue approaching the pass.
Okay, so how do we know that day in question was? Why was the day in question recorded? So like, it's kind of interesting to have the date of the planned assassination actually recorded. I thought that's.
I'm not sure where it was recorded or by who, but I think that because it was such a, you could say, important event in his life and his history, that it kind of makes sense that someone would record the exact day that the event happened, instead of just merely saying, oh, it happened in like summer of 1570.
That's true. It's a pretty profound date. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's okay. So Nobunaga is coming closer and closer, and Sugitani has prepared his rifle and he takes the shot. Now he does see Nobunaga fall from his horse and fall to the ground, but the shot has failed. He sees Nobunaga stirring and climbing back to his feet. And even though Nobunaga was grabbing at his neck, no doubt in a severe amount of pain, there was no blood. So the bullet had hit. Sugitani was known to have never missed a shot. However, Nobunaga was saved by his armor, specifically the collar of armor which was on his chest plate. So the bullet had hit the collar of his armor, which had saved Nobunaga from death. Sugitani has no option but to flee, and so he does. Eventually fleeing to the temple known as Amida-ji, which was a Buddhist monastery in an area of land controlled by a warlord known as Isono Kazumasa. Now, Kazumasa had an uneasy alliance with Nobunaga at the time, so it was dangerous in a way for Sugitani to go and hide in an area with alliances to the man he attempted to kill. But he did that anyway, and he actually remained there in the temple for a few years where he was completely safe. And no matter how hard Nobunaga tried to find his assassin, he couldn't find him. Eventually though, the assassin's luck did run out, and word somehow reached Kazumasa of Sugitani's presence in his realm. Kazumasa, wanting to curry favor with Nobunaga, used this as a perfect opportunity to curry more favor with the warlord. So he goes to the temple and he captures Sugitani and hands him over to Nobunaga.
I'm going to guess it was not good. Considering Nobunaga's past, I am assuming it's not a good happening for Sugitani.
Yeah, exactly. He's captured and he's condemned to death. Nobunaga decides to personally oversee the whole of the execution. So he has Sugitani buried up to his neck in sand, so only his head is above the ground. And then it was ordered that his head was to be sawn off.
Oh, now the buried in neck up to the in the sand up to the neck. I saw that in, I think it's Good Morning, Mr. Lawrence. Have you seen that?
Not something I'm familiar with.
It's really good movie. I definitely recommend. But the person at the end, yeah, he was buried up to his neck. So I've heard of that before.
Now, if having your head cut off wasn't bad enough, the beheading itself took several hours. And other records actually say it happened over the course of a few days. Purely because Nobunaga decided that he was to be beheaded with a dull blade made of bamboo.
Oh god. Oh. Yeah, they didn't do that in the movie.
Oh, good. I'm glad you didn't have to watch that.
No. Oh. Huh. I don't think I have anything else to say at this point.
That's fair enough.
Did anyone else actually try to assassinate Nobunaga, or after this they were like, yep, no, we're all right, we're okay?
There were other attempts on Nobunaga's life later in his reign. Perhaps reign is the wrong word to use here. Later in his career in the unification of Japan, yeah. There was an attempt in 1573 by someone called Manabe Rokuro. He attempted to infiltrate Azuchi Castle to assassinate Nobunaga while he was sleeping, which again ended in failure, forcing Manabe to commit ritual suicide, after which his body was then displayed to the public. There's also a document called the Eranki, which says that when Nobunaga was inspecting Iga province, a group of 3 ninjas shot at him with large caliber firearms, but the shots flew wide and didn't hit Nobunaga and instead killed 7 of his surrounding companions. But in addition, almost ironically, Nobunaga himself hired assassins to kill other people, such as a ninja called as Hachisuka Tenzo, who he sent to assassinate a powerful daimyo called Takeda Shingen, which also ultimately failed.
If you failed, really bad things would happen to you. Sugitani.
But yes, because obviously that is now the end of Sugitani's life. That is the end of my story for today. It does not have a happy ending in the slightest. It's quite gory and quite a painful ending for Sugitani, and I cannot even imagine the pain he would have gone through. So yeah, what do you make of all that?
Well, now let me just, I'm going to try to just change the tone a little bit so I can get that visual out of my head and ask, so what kind of weapons did ninja use? Because you got me intrigued with the gun. That is not something I knew about.
Okay, so obviously, yeah, like I said, like I mentioned before, they had the shuriken, which are the well-known throwing stars. Now what's interesting about the shuriken is that they were actually many different shapes to them, but they were all collectively known as the shuriken. Which, do you know what shuriken would mean in English?
No, I don't.
Well, I have it here for you.
Ooh.
So if you wanted to translate shuriken into English, it's made up of 3 kanji, which you could translate as to a blade in the hand. So quite a literal meaning to the weapon. But like I said, there were different shapes to them, and depending on the shape would depend on how they were thrown from the hand. There were some which were like 6-sided, 6-pointed stars, some which only had 4, and some which were almost square in shape, but with very, very pointed edges. Those ones, even though they were called shuriken, still had a different name of a senban. Now the other 2 ones I mentioned earlier, the kusurigami and the tekokagi, are interesting, I think. So the kusurigami was basically a modified form of a farmer's sickle.
Oh!
They would take the sickle that a farmer would use and attach a very long chain to it, and at the other end attach a very heavy weight. What would normally happen is they would throw the chain to wrap around their opponent to kind of pin them down, so then they could rush in and take them down with the sickle blade. There are quite a few other weapons, so I just want to do 2 more, which I think are quite interesting. The first is the tekokagi, which were basically like metal gauntlets. If you think of Wolverine it gives you a good idea of what they were. They were basically metal things with very long talons, and they would wear them to use when they were fighting. There was and the last one I want to mention, it was called the nekote, which was basically a smaller version of that. They were small pieces of metal you would wear on the ends of your fingers, which had like small claws on. So it was almost like you were wearing cat's claws, hence the name nekote, neko being the Japanese word for cat.
And te is hand.
Exactly. So they had quite a range of weapons, like ones you could use from afar, ones you could use up close and personal, as well as using the more modern technology as it was invented and they adopted it.
So were ninja very like quiet and stealthy? Like do they wear all black and just creep silently through everything, or is that more of a myth? So I'm wondering how they pick up and carry all this equipment, because it seems like all that metal might be a little difficult and heavy to carry.
You know what, Heather? That is a very good question. But I feel that there are several more ninjas we can cover in the future. So I feel that we talked about some of the weapons today, so maybe in a future episode we can cover their clothing. We can cover some more of the weapons. But we could also even cover their training and the ways in which they hid themselves, with like the smoke bombs and things like that.
Okay, I agree with you.
So I'm going to make you wait, if that's okay. I'm going to make you and everyone who's listening wait until a future episode.
Considering what happened to Sugitani, I'm totally fine with that today. Totally fine with that today.
Okay, fair enough. You had one more question, no? I think?
Nope, I think we're good.
I'm pretty sure you wanted to know where the Koga clan lived, but okay, whatever.
Oh, okay, so I have one more question.
Okay, shoot.
Where did the Koga clan live?
Shoot, like Sugitani did. See what I did there?
Oh, yeah, and
that was totally not intended, but I'll take it.
Not. You hit your target. Yes.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Oh gosh.
I love a good pun. No, I don't. I hate them, but I hate them so much that I love them. So it's a vicious cycle.
I just full on love them, just unashamedly. I love a pun. I love a good pun. Oh yeah, the question. Koga clan, where were they active? Where did they live?
So the Koga clan historically were known to have lived in the old province of Iga. Now Iga province would fall into the modern day prefecture of Mei Prefecture.
Perfect. Thank you.
No, that's okay. I enjoy answering your questions. You always throw me curveballs and I have to quickly be like, oh, I don't have a book on that. Let me quickly Google. Google Sensei, please help. Please save the day.
Google Sensei. Oh, the teacher's best friend.
Indeed. So, yes, unless you have any other questions, then I am ready for today's poem or song.
Ah, wonderful. Well, today I chose another haiku. I'm in a haiku frame of mind these days, so we're going to go with that. So today's poem is from Kobayashi Issa, and he was active 1763 to 1828. And he is a Japanese poet and a Buddhist priest, and he was known for his haiku poems and journals. And I think one of the best parts, he is simply better known as Issa. And if you look at the kanji, it's actually a pen name that means cup of tea. So his pen name was cup of tea.
I quite like that. I mean, as you know, I love tea. I'm never not drinking tea. So this man, I love him dearly already. Like, change nothing. Like, I love you, Kobayashi Issa. Thank you. Thank you for your name. I just had a thought though. You said he was also well known for his journals. Were these poetry journals, or were these like what were in these journals?
His journals actually were autobiographical. So he wrote about life, and he also drew. He was famous for his drawings. So his books had haikus and drawings and things about life. And I definitely will look into it more and find out exactly more about his journals, because I'm intrigued as well, and I definitely want to see some of those drawings.
Okay, so future episode, you want to do another Issa haiku? I'll ask you about the journals, so be prepared.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, there's actually 4 haiku masters in Japan. Well, one of the 4 haiku masters, Basho, Busan, and Shiki. So I think we can do quite a few episodes on all 4 of the haiku masters.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so are you ready for the poem?
I am indeed.
Suzukaze ya chikara ippai kirigirisu. That is the Japanese. The English is, the cool breeze with all his strength, the cricket.
You might have to explain this haiku to me if I'm a bit honest. I'm with it for the first 2 lines. The cool breeze with all its strength makes sense to me, and then it's just, also there's a cricket. So please explain the cricket to me.
Well, the strength part, I believe, refers to the cricket. So the cricket is singing or chirping with all his strength. So like we said before, the cicadas are noisy in the summertime. The crickets here are very loud. So with all their strength, you hear them at night. Not just that. Recently, I was bringing in my laundry from the outside balcony, and I saw a cricket. The cricket was about 3 inches, which I apologize for non-metric. I could have made it a pet and walked around on a leash with it.
Well, 3 inches I can change for you. That is about 7.5 centimeters.
Oh, that sounds so much bigger in metric. But yeah, the cool breeze. Now, that's the translation I got. So I'm going to consult with my professor again later and see if there's possibly a different interpretation of this poem or a different way to read it. But for this particular translation, the strength refers to the cricket, and I believe the sound of the cricket's voice.
Okay. So basically it's saying, outside there's a cool breeze on the air, but at the same time, mixed in with this cool breeze, there is the sound of the crickets out in nature.
Yes,
okay.
Perfect.
See, now I understand it. Because, like you said, the poems can be interpreted differently, and as soon as you read it, I instantly associated the strength with the breeze, where if you associate with the cricket, it has an entirely different meaning instantly.
That's what I love about the haiku, and I love about the poetry, especially because it's been translated, is that you really can look at it in different ways, and I think it's beautiful. I like the way you looked at it with the cool breeze and the strong, like with all the strength, and sometimes... yeah, when I'm walking outside, as hot as it is here, I definitely love a strong, cool breeze. So I like the way you interpreted that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I'm hoping that there's actually a painting that goes along with this haiku. If I can find it, we'll have to post it. So I might have to go on a hunt.
Well, Heather.
I will try. Ganbarimashou!
What? I went a bit deaf there, so I actually didn't hear you. Sorry, I didn't say to everyone, I have a bad cold right now. So sometimes when Heather's been talking, I'm like, I'm sorry. I literally didn't hear a word you just said. Please repeat that. So yes, Heather, one more time.
Did you have any other questions about the poem today?
I did not. No. Like I said, I find his name actually... Oh, no. My last question, actually. So you've said his name is Kobayashi Issa, and Issa was a pen name. So what was his original name?
No, his name still is Issa, but the pen name is just Issa. So his kanji is Kobayashi Issa. It's the same kanji, which looks like a line and is the kanji for tea. But he was known just by that first name kanji, and that name meant cup of tea.
I understand.
So
now.
If you look at the naming convention for... yeah, naming kanjis and kanjis for items are sometimes different and complicated. In this instance, because he just went by his first name, it wasn't so much his first name, it was more meaning like cup of tea. That's my understanding.
Okay, I get that. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, once more, thank you very much for the poem. I definitely enjoyed it, and I can't wait till you have another haiku by him so I can learn a bit more about his journals. That was all my questions, unless you suddenly thought of something else about Sugitani or the ninja.
No, I almost got the image of Sugitani out of my head, so I'm just going to thinking about cup of tea, and not think about the last thing about Sugitani. So no more questions for me.
Okay, that's that.
Well, that's all for us today. We'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoy the Japan Archives and have an interest in Japanese history and mythology, please be sure to check out our growing database over at historyofjapan.co.uk. We continue to add more to it every week, and you can find the show notes for every episode up on the website too. It's a large undertaking, so please be patient while we try to make a database which all Japanese history lovers can find useful. You can find us over on Twitter at A History of Japan, and if you're on Instagram, you can find us there at Nexus_Travels. That's NEXUS_Travels.
We also have a Facebook page, which you can find at Japan Archives. All of our social media is different. Also, if you're interested in little slices of life in Japan, be sure to check out my website over at heatheroveryonder.com. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, or have anything you'd love to hear about, head on over to historyofjapan.co.uk and send us a message.
If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to give us a rating and review over on iTunes. Right now, it's the best place to do so, and it helps us get the word out about this show. Thanks again for listening, guys. Until next time, bye.
またね。